Hello, BookTube. I'm in Vermont. Those of you who are keeping score at home, I am. Frida and I are vacationing here at the old farmhouse in Vermont, and the trip wouldn't be a trip really if it didn't involve back issues of comic books. There's a place near here. A Vermonter would say it's just up the road. There's a place near here. You might have something like it where you live. It's a sprawling consignment antique store. So it's not really a thrift shop. It's that people have something, whatever that something is, an old working condition manual typewriter, a 100-year-old pair of snowshoes that are, threaded and webbed, old baseball cards, old political campaign lapel buttons, old books, plenty of books, old utensils, furniture, that sort of stuff. And you rent a space there in this vast, sprawling barn, and the stuff is on consignment. It just sits there, and you hope that you will catch the eye of someone. It's amazing. I confess, the first time that Mark and his wife described it to me, I thought, well, every once in a while, hosts of mine will take me to antique stores, and it's $80 for something that I wouldn't have any interest in at all. And I was wrong, completely wrong. The place is amazing. It's amazing. The people are all fun, except for one woman. There's in the entire sprawling building, it's as big as a football stadium. There's only one woman who is both unpleasant and incompetent. And where is she? Say it with me now. She's at the front register. But aside from her, all of the staff, all of the customers wandering around the tight little aisles, and also just the sheer fun of it. Even if you don't plan on spending any money at all, and you can go to this place and spend very little. These things are not always universally expensive. But even if you go there planning on not spending any money at all, let's say somebody just drags you there, and or maybe you go for the alpacas. There's an alpaca petting area at the end of the building. I took Frida there today. Their reactions were, they were not afraid of her at all, and she, of course, was not afraid of them. But they were also intensely curious about her. I think that maybe they thought she was a tiny little alpaca. She kind of looks like one. One of the people that was there, once Frida got done screaming at them and ordering them to pet her, they said she looks like the world's smallest alpaca. But every time I go to this place, when I come up here to the old farmhouse, there's a corner. There are a few nooks and crannies in this place that have back issues of comic books. Now, I usually would not get a book at this antique mart. Even the book areas, even the ones that are most reasonably priced, I have been incredibly spoiled by the Brattle Bookshop in Boston, where I can spend $1 on a book. If you get used to, and I'm 50 years used to it, if you get used to $1 books, anything more than that feels like highway robbery. So I have to mentally prepare myself, but the comic books are dirt cheap. $2 a piece, $1 a piece. So I made a beeline for those comic book areas, and Frida was very well behaved. Much better behaved than she was even the last time we were here at Halloween. She's just, she figures things out. If you present her with some strange new environment, strange new experiences, she figures it out. That may seem self-evident to you, but keep in mind, I'm coming off a long time with a brain-damaged basset hound. A basset hound who never figured out anything. So I went into that corner. So I guess this video here is a kind of supplemental comic book video. I did a Wednesday comic book video on Wednesday, but I want to show you what I got there. One of the if you I should make a playlist of all the old farmhouse videos that I do. If I ever figure out how to make playlists, that's a natural candidate, because I've been making videos every time I come up here. I should do that. And if you were to make such a playlist and look at those videos, you would see that every time I go to this place, I get back issues of the Legion of Superheroes, my beloved Legion of Superheroes. That feels extra poignant now because the Legion of Superheroes has been relaunched. It's been reimagined. So these back issues feel all the more touching. And of course, I went and got some of those. So the first one is not, it's not technically the Legion. For a while, there was a Legion spin-off book called Legionnaires. And I got an issue of that. And the folderol all around the end there's the end of an era, but up at the top there it says 0 Hour. Some of you who are long-time DC Comics fans will remember. 0 Hour was one of DC Comics has been around for 80 years. And that you build up a lot of continuity that way, a lot of back issues, a lot of stories, things that have happened to different characters. And every once in a while, DC Comics will have the suits that run the company will have a spasm of panic and think, we can't ask that of fans. We can't ask them to remember all that stuff. We need to wipe the slate clean with some big event that removes all that continuity, and then we'll just start all over. Every time they do it, it's a disaster. They always cause more problems than they solve. And because they happen, they become part of that convoluted continuity and just increase the original problem. Zero Hour was one of those. It was one of the dumber ones of those. But that's why on the cover here you have Legion heroes fighting other versions of themselves, because that 0 Hour was in full effect when this thing came out. But I don't mind. I get these back issues just at random. There's no complete runs at this antique mart. So, and that's the same thing with these others. I got, like for instance, Tom Payer had a run on the Legion of Superheroes that was really, really good, just tremendous. And a lot of his issues were drawn by an artist named Lee Moder, who I just love. I think that artwork is fantastic. And I got 2 of those. This is issue number 90 and issue number 101 of Legion of Superheroes. Here they fight a 20th century villain named Dr. Psycho. And here, those of you who are longtime Legion fans, I think there are 2 of you who watch this channel, will recognize what these characters are doing. Yes, they are all assembled around the corpse of a dead Legionnaire, and yes, they're all holding up what looks like lightning rods. Believe it or not, even though that all sounds really weird, that exact scenario has a long Legion history. And I got these issues when they first came out. I believe in the 1980s. I think these came out in the 1980s. I could look at the fine print, or I could also look at the ads. Looking at the ads is often a much quicker way to tell when, yeah, this is the 1980s. You've got the Steve Guttenberg movies, and all that sort of stuff. Am I right? Let's see here. Oh, no, 1997. Maybe this was a reprint. And then the other one, the last of the Legion stuff that I got was Legion of Superheroes. This is number 125. And it's Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. They're a creative team. They have done great Legion work. Fantastic Legion work. They did a long and very dystopian story in which a horrible alien species almost kills the Legion, almost kills all life on Earth. The Legion prevails, and then at the very end of that storyline, in the coda to that storyline, a small number of Legion heroes appear to be lost in action. They appear to have been destroyed on a space station. And we're just, in that issue, we're just told, well, I guess we'll just mourn them. I guess, a third of the Legion just died, and we'll just mourn them. But it wasn't true. The writer and artist were setting up a limited series, a year-long limited series called Legion Lost, in which those Legionnaires find themselves in a totally different galaxy, facing totally different threats, and concluding that miniseries, the Legion Lost miniseries, concludes in one of the most heart-wrenching 2 issues anywhere in the Legion run. It's an absolute classic of a Legion run, is what I'm saying. It was the type of thing where even Legion fans who love and gobble up every issue saw that storyline and thought, boy, I wish this was collected. This is a cut above even the normal Legion. And what I found today, issue 125 of the Legion of Superheroes is that coda issue. This is the issue in which at the very end, let me show you. At the very end, that space station is blasted away. And the so-called surviving Legion members just assume their comrades are lost. And this was the break-off point. After this issue, the Legion of Superheroes just kept trucking along, but Legion Lost started a couple of months after this. And I'd never read this before. This bridge issue is never in the collections. Legion Lost has been collected since then. And it is... It's a classic Legion run, one of half a dozen only in 50 years of continuity. But this is never included in that, so now I have that. So it was great to find Legion issues, but I confess, when we went to this thing, when I thought, an old antiques mart probably is not going to be vulnerable to the madness of Black Friday. Those of you who maybe don't know or maybe are blissfully unaware of American commercial activities, the day after Thanksgiving is called Black Friday, and it's when lunatics pile into their cars, still slogging with Thanksgiving food, and go to fight with other lunatics for doorbuster sales at stores. It is self-evidently psychotic behavior, and naturally, Mark was as reluctant as I was to go anywhere near any place that might have anything to do with that. So, but we figured an antique mart probably wouldn't, and it was true. It was crowded, but it was nice and friendly. It wasn't Black Friday or anything. And I confess, when we went there, I had something in mind to look for. These nooks and crannies of comic books have so many in them that I have never, and I always have Frida with me, and that's always a bit of a distraction. So I've never actually looked at every single comic book in this corner, in these nooks and crannies. So I don't actually know everything that's in there. And I thought, well, isn't there a chance that I went looking for one thing? Last week, or maybe the week before that, I did a Comic Book Wednesday in which I mentioned that one of the big hardcover collected volumes that it was coming out that week that I might have been interested in was the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, which is the thing that Marvel Comics did in the 1980s, the late 1980s, where every one of their characters, heroes and villains, gets a page with an originally commissioned colored drawing and then a breakdown of everything about them, specific details. Where were they born? Where did they grow up? How many siblings do they have? How tall are they? What color are their eyes? How much can they lift? If they can fly, how fast can they fly? How high can they fly? How long can they fly before they get tired? The kind of real-world observable metrics that would never apply to DC Comics. To the DC Comics, their heroes are far more legendary, far more mythological. So you would never have anything like that in DC Comics. Sometimes you might come close. There are some hard and fast rules in DC Comics, but not quantitatively. And in the Handbook of the Marvel Universe, that everything is quantitative. And that was so much fun that, of course, I was hoping that down the line there might be a hardcover collection. I have the Handbook of the Marvel Universe, and my paperbacks are falling apart. I read them so much. So when I saw this hardcover omnibus for $125, I thought, well, okay, that's great. I might actually pay that. And then I realized that it was the Handbook of the Marvel Universe was done originally as a miniseries, many, many issues, alphabetically. You deal with everybody alphabetically. And then it was updated. A few years later, it was updated in the deluxe edition. And the update is much better than the original. Has all the same original artwork, but lots more clip artwork from other issues and lots more writing, lots more detail. There's just no comparison between the two. If you looked at one side by side, no matter who you are, you would say, well, you got to get the deluxe one. It's just better. And for some unknown reason, Marvel Comics decided that when it came to making a hardcover omnibus edition, they would do the originals. And I knew that I didn't want that because I bought all the originals when they hit the newsstands. And I thought, this is really, really good. And then a few years later, I bought the deluxe edition. So I thought, this is much better. So, this is a very long story, but to tell you that when I went to this Antiques Mart, I thought, for $1 a piece, the thing that I would want here would be to see if they have any of those original issues, and if they have any of the original Handbook of the Marvel Universe, the ones that were then collected in that hardcover omnibus. And they did. They did. I got 2 issues. This is Q through S. So you have Quicksilver and his sister, the Scarlet Witch. You have Sasquatch. You have Shanna the She-Devil, Quasar. You have Rom Space Knight. On the back, you have She-Hulk. You can recognize a lot of these characters yourself. Rhino and all of the Sentinels and whatnot. And this is what I'm talking about. See? You have one page for the Sandman. That is Mike Zeck artwork. This is John Byrne artwork. They did not draw these anywhere else. These pictures are not taken from the comics. And you have a breakdown of all of the material. Now, let me show you. I got 2 issues of that original one. But then there were a bunch of others. So I got them as well. And 2 of those were deluxe. So I can show you the difference here. Although these are not the actual handbook, the handbook did fairly well. Fans liked it, so they bought them, and they wrote in saying, please give us more. So when the deluxe issues came out, Marvel did issues specifically featuring dead characters. Because fans wanted to know some of their favorite characters were dead, had been killed in issues, and they still wanted stats. So you get something like this. Look at how hokey that is. The characters are actually rising from the dead in a graveyard. And you get them on the back as well. Just rising from the dead in a graveyard. Let me show you. Yeah, here you go. All right, so let me give you an example here. I don't think there's any chance that I will get a character that you know, because these dead characters are usually not that. They're usually really, really dumb. Well, okay, here, you might know this, because this is Malekith, who was the villain in Thor Dark World, which is a Marvel movie, so you might know that. And you see, the first thing that you see looks exactly like this. It looks like just a one-page summary, but then it goes on and on. You get more artwork from... Oh, no, that's a different guy. You get more artwork and a lot more material about this character. That is just a better way to do it. And, I mean, these things were popular and fans loved them, but the problem is that death is not permanent in the Marvel Universe, so you would never need to do this. If anybody took it into their head to do an official handbook to the Marvel Universe now, you would not need to do a separate volume for dead characters, because any of these people could come back. The ironclad rule in Marvel Comics for years and years, for decades, used to be that nobody's dead except Bucky. That was the ironclad rule forever and ever. Captain America in World War II had a teenage sidekick named Bucky, and he died in the same event that put Captain America into suspended animation from which he would awaken in the present day. Grief-stricken that his World War II buddy did not survive. And the rule in Marvel Comics was everybody else can die, but they're going to come back. The only one who doesn't come back is Bucky. And you can even see that on the cover of one of these issues. That is Bucky right there, rising from his grave. And that changed completely with Winter Soldier. Was it Ed Brubaker? Some of you might know better than I. The writer some writer at Marvel Comics decided to break the cardinal rule and have a grown-up version of Bucky alive. That he had not died in that explosion. He had been salvaged by the Soviets or whatever, and brainwashed and given a cybernetic arm and whatnot. And fans loved it. He was called the Winter Soldier, and fans loved it. So much so that the Winter Soldier made his way into a Captain America movie. And then into the, at last count, $4.1 trillion Avengers franchise. $4.1 trillion. With a T. So Bucky is definitely alive now. There are more people in the world who know about him than know. He is definitely alive now. So that rule is permanently broken. But these things are still going to be fun to look at. It'll be fun in a macabre kind of way to go through these and do a head count of all the characters. These were done in the 80s. It'll be fun to see how many of these people have since returned from the dead. Bucky, I'm sure, is not the only one. Those are my comic books. I'm giving you a supplementary comic book video here. There was the Legion, but then there was also the Handbook to the Marvel Universe. I only found 2 of the original ones, but that's okay. I wouldn't want all. I've had all of them before. This will give me a way to look through these and maybe rethink that omnibus volume. Maybe I would get that omnibus volume if it was $40, something like that. I know that I will see it for $40. It's all text and heights and weights and stats, so ordinary fans aren't going to want it. And I have a feeling that comic book fans are going to feel the same way I did, which is you're reprinting the wrong series. You should be reprinting the deluxe one, and I'm not going to bother with this one. So I got these 2 just to look at them. But that's it. I didn't get any wooden spoons, no vintage clothing, no books this time around, nothing. We were going to go to just ordinary thrift shops so that I could look for books and clothing and kitchen utensils and whatnot. I said to Mark as we were driving out, well, won't those places be closed because it's the day after Thanksgiving? He said, no, they'll certainly be open. Absolutely. And then when we got to them and they were closed, I looked at him and, BookTube, we're friends. I can admit I might have had tears standing in my eyes. And I said, I thought you said they'd be open. And he said, yeah, I told you they'd be open. And I said, but you knew they'd be closed. Why would you do that? And he said, because you're fat. So I don't have any books to show you. but some of you who are watching and paying attention will be able to pinpoint almost to the second when Mark entered the room. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. You have a supplementary comic video, and you have my response to the latest Has Steve Donahue read tag. So I'll be back Thank you, BookTube.